Hi skiers, I'm Jeff from skiessentials.com. We're here today to do another comparison article of a category, and this is the first time that we're doing this with women's skis. We've had a lot of customers asking us if we could do one of these comparison articles with women's skis, and we think that's a great idea. Women make up a large percentage of the total number of skiers out there, and companies are starting to put a little bit more specific R&D into their women's skis. Almost gone are the days of shrink it and pink it. We still see a little bit of that, and you know, there is some varying opinions. Some companies, they make their skis on purpose very similar construction to their men's skis to make them burly and strong. And then we see some other companies saying, you know, we're doing a similar thing but a lighter core and stuff like that. So check out the article. There's some more details about core materials and stuff like that. I'm going to run through these skis really as quick as I can while still doing them all justice, and kind of talk about the highlights of each one, what I think makes them stand apart from each other, and yeah, anything else that I think is kind of notable information about each ski. These are all kind of hovering around the 90 millimeter waist width. Some are right at 90, like the Kenja. Some are a little wider, like the Santa Ana 93. Some are a little narrower, like the Temptation and the Black Pearl. Those are at 88. But for the most part, we're kind of hovering right around 90 millimeters here, which has been proven to be a very versatile width, especially for an all-mountain ski. So to kick it off, this is a ski that I think a lot of people are familiar with, the Rossignol Temptation 88 HD. It's been around for a little while. Something that you're going to notice as I go through the skis, they're going to increase in the amount of metal in the skis. I thought that was an interesting way to organize this video. So starting with the Temptation 88 HD, there's no metal in this ski. It's a wood core, and it's supported by Rossignol's carbon alloy matrix material, which is easier to see on some of their men's skis, but you can see the actual grid of carbon fiber, this kind of woven grid. And what that does is, we've talked about it a lot, it increases torsional stiffness, it even gives the skis some dampening and stability, without being nearly as heavy as metal. Something that I think is really important to note about the Temptation is Rossignol's extended side cut. And that's one of the things that really sets this ski apart from anything else that we're going to talk about. The widest point of the ski is all the way up at the very, very end of the tip. So what happens when you put the ski on edge on firm snow, you get really, really long edge contact. I would say easily the longest effective edge out of all these skis. If you were to take the same length in all of them and measure the actual effective edge that's touching the snow, this is probably the longest, easily the longest. So relatively lightweight, great torsional stiffness from that carbon, and this extended side cut profile really makes it great at carving turns. Some of these other shapes are focused a little bit more on maneuverability and soft snow, off-piste conditions and terrain. The Temptation 88, you know, it's 88 underfoot, so that's wide enough to take it into soft snow, into some, you know, trickier terrain than just groomers. But really, probably what it does best is, you know, that full-length edge contact. You get great edge grip on groomers, so very confidence-inspiring feel on groomers. But, you know, it's not so heavy. It doesn't have any metal in it. So not a fatiguing ski. It's something that you can ski all day long. Relatively lightweight. Rossignol uses their air tip, so swing weight is reduced. So definitely a ski that loves to ski groomers, can ski everything else, but really that long effective edge and the torsional stiffness makes it very snappy and very responsive and very, very fun on groomers. So, you know, if you lean towards groomer skiing but you still want an all-mountain ski, the Temptation's a great choice. Next we have the Head Wild Joy. I almost threw this thing into the ceiling when I picked it up because it's so light. the weight of this ski is something that Head really focuses on. It uses a unique blend of materials, graphene, choroid. Like I said, check the article. It's got the full length of materials in this ski. But it's very, very, very light. But those materials combine to give it good damping properties. It is very smooth. A lot of people on our ski test were really impressed by this ski. It's so light that you'd expect it to maybe get bounced around a little bit. But it doesn't. It stays nice and quiet. One of my favorite things about this ski is this hole in the front of the ski is actually engineered to provide downforce, kind of like the spoiler of a car. The ski nerd deep inside me thinks that's just really cool. So kudos to Head. You know, you don't. If you put it right next to the Temptation, you can notice that extended side cut in the Temptation. So you're not getting quite the same full-length edge contact on the Wildjoy. That makes it a touch more maneuverable in, you know, off-piste variable terrain. But overall, I would say relatively similar to the Temptation. It does have a different feel thanks to that graphene and choroid. Maybe a touch smoother, maybe not quite as energetic feeling and super responsive. Something that I think is cool, and it's the only ski in this collection that has it. Head includes a skin attachment tail. So that's, to me, a nod to how light the ski is. You could easily use this as an alpine touring ski. Slap a touring binding on there, and you've got kind of a great, maybe more hard snow oriented touring ski. But great reaction to the Wildjoy so far. I think a lot of women are really impressed by it. Next we have the Blizzard Black Pearl 88. This is hands down the best-selling women's ski on the market. You know, it's not quite as light as the Wildjoy. It's probably pretty similar to weight as the Temptation, maybe a touch heavier. But there's no metal in this ski. It uses a wood core and it uses directional carbon fiber. There's basically a women's-specific carbon flip core construction that this ski has. The Black Pearl 98 has it, and the 78 has it. So, really cool ski. What I like about the Black Pearl 88, it's got that precise Austrian feel. Most of Blizzard skis really feel very precise. They have excellent edge grip. You know, their skis with metal are really known for their edge grip, but even this Black Pearl without metal, it's super awesome on groomers. It holds an edge really well. And, you know, we're starting to get into what I would consider a little bit more versatile of a shape with the Black Pearl. It's not an extreme amount of early taper in the tip, but you can kind of see that it straightens itself out through the tip of the ski. That makes it a lot less catchy in soft snow conditions. So the Black Pearl, you know, it can ski groomers, it can ski moguls, it can ski everything in between. And I think one of the reasons why it's become so popular, if you're an expert skier, you can get on it and rip turns. Just lay down crazy powerful turns, and the ski will handle it. On the other side of the spectrum, you could be a pretty timid intermediate skier and ski the Black Pearl and be fine on it. As we start getting into some skis with more metal in it, that's not always the case. Sometimes they can kind of punish you if you make a mistake or if you're not on the ski all the time. The Black Pearl, you can get up on it and really put a lot of skier input into it, but you don't necessarily have to. It's a little bit more relaxed because it doesn't have any metal. So I personally think that's one of the reasons why the Black Pearl has been so popular, is it hits a nice wide range of ability levels. Next ski we have, and now we're starting to move into skis with some metal. These next two skis have partial metal laminates. We're going to kind of talk about how that sets them apart. But this is the Atomic Vantage 90 CTI. It's very, very similar to the men's version, which we've done a full review on the men's ski. So yeah, if you want really nitty-gritty details about how they perform, I think watching the men's review is fine. It's very relevant to the women's ski because they are pretty similar. So what's going on here with this ski? Wood core, there's carbon tank mesh, which sounds very similar to carbon alloy matrix because it is. It's another kind of woven grid of carbon fiber. You can see it just barely in the top sheet of the ski. You might not be able to see it on camera, but when you have it in your hand, you can see it. And then they use a titanium backbone. It's the titanium backbone 2.0. So essentially there's a strip of Titanal that runs through the center of the ski. So it's not as heavy as something that uses a full sheet of metal or two full sheets of metal, but it does start to have a little more weight to it. But along the same lines, it's got some great damping. It does have that smoothness of the metal. And I think the Vantage is another, similar to what I was saying about the Black Pearl, it's a relatively versatile shape. The tip's doesn't extend all the way into the tip like the Temptation does. So maybe a touch more maneuverable in soft snow. It's got a pretty rounded off tail, which I always look at the tail shape of a ski. If you've got a flat, very squared off tail, it's going to want to finish a carving turn and sometimes doesn't let you release that edge very easily. You definitely can on the Vantage. It's partial vertical sidewall underfoot, so a little bit less torsional stiffness in the tips and tails, makes turn initiation a little easier, and then when you're in the turn, that carbon and the metal, it really gives it good torsional stiffness and great stability and a good feel. I wouldn't necessarily say that the Vantage requires that much more aggressive of a skier compared to these first three skis that we talked about. Maybe it's got a touch more stability. There are a lot of skiers out there that just like the feel of metal. So the Vantage is one. If you really want metal in your ski, it's got metal in there. So rest assured that there's metal. Another one that's kind of similar is the K2 All of It 88. This ski really shares a design and shares most of its construction with the Pinnacle 88, the men's Pinnacle 88. We've talked a lot about the Pinnacle 95 throughout various reviews, some comparison articles, and our ski test and everything else. And something that we always keep coming back to, there's more to it, but something we always keep coming back to with these skis is how smooth they are. So unlike the Atomic, this actually uses metal along the edges of the ski. So if you can see, there's a raised portion on the top sheet, and there's basically these shaped metal laminates that run along the edge of the ski and kind of taper as you reach the tips and the tails. So it's really doing the same thing as that Atomic. It's really smoothing the ski out, gives it great damping properties, good stability, and just, like I was saying, a really, really smooth feel. It likes to stay pretty quiet along the snow, and then you combine that with the shape of this ski. There is a little bit of early taper in the tail. It's not quite as pronounced as the tip, but you're kind of getting that same benefit out of the tail. On a groomer, if you're really looking for a ski that finishes a turn with a ton of power, maybe you do want something with more of a squared off tail, like the Temptation. If we kind of look at those skis next to each other, pretty different tail shape. So this one's going to wash around a lot easier, which, makes it, in my opinion, a confidence-inspiring ski. Between the smoothness of the metal and how easy it is to maneuver this ski, I think it's a great one. Maybe you're an advanced skier that spends most of your time, or historically have spent most of your time on firm snow. The K2, the All of It 88 could be a good one to kind of take your ability and start moving into more off-piste terrain, more variable terrain. So these last three skis here, these all use two sheets of metal. So we kind of went no metal, no metal, no metal, some metal, two sheets of metal. So we'll start with this Legend W88 from Dynastar. This is a new collection for Dynastar, and if you were here with me and you could pick up all these skis and you were kind of going in the same direction that I'm going, you'd pick this up and you'd say, hey, that's the heaviest. But what comes along with a heavy ski? Great damping. So, you know, we've been saying that about some of these skis, but in terms of vibration damping, 2 sheets of metal, it's hard to match that. You know, Head has put a lot of R&D into their Coroid and graphene, but there's something about the feel of 2 sheets of metal, and also the weight. You know, some people want a really lightweight ski that feels super maneuverable. Some people want a little more weight under their foot. It does give you a very, very stable feel. Makes the ski kind of feel tank-like in the sense that you can just cut and plow through things. So that's really the benefit of 2 sheets of metal. And then if you'll notice, the shape of the ski is pretty similar to the Pinnacle. So lots of early taper in the tip, good amount in the tail too, maybe arguably a little bit more than the Pinnacle, or sorry, the all of it. And so you combine those and you've got a pretty unique ski. Great maneuverability, it's going to have catch-free performance in soft snow, but there's 2 sheets of metal. So to me, the W88, the Legend W88, is kind of for the skier that is pretty aggressive, skis pretty hard, but prefers not to ski groomers. That's not to say that it can't. It absolutely can. There's camber underfoot, so you know you're gonna get a fairly normal feeling ski on a groomer, and you can definitely carve turns. But that ski is gonna be a blast in trees, in kind of, you know, if you're skiing open bowls that have some variable snow conditions, it's gonna be great for that because you get that catch-free performance, but it's also very, very smooth. I think the same can be said about the Nordica Santa Ana 93. Overall, pretty similar ski. They do have a little bit different feel. We talk a lot about the Nordica, a lot about the Nordica Enforcer series. We've done some full reviews on the 93, which is kind of the brother to this ski. This one has a balsa core, so it's got their Energy 2 I can't remember exactly what they call it, but it's a lighter version of their 2 sheets of metal construction. It's actually used in some of their wider men's skis like the Enforcer 110, pretty similar construction. So you've got this balsa wood core that's wrapped with 2 sheets of metal. So a little bit lighter than a ski with a denser wood core like an aspen wood core or something like that. But you get the benefits of 2 sheets of metal. And something that we always keep coming back to with these skis is how approachable they are. You know, I wouldn't put a beginner on it, but I think if you're a pretty accomplished intermediate, you can ski this ski. Now, keep in mind there's 2 sheets of metal in it, so it's going to be a little bit more tiring than a ski like the Temptation, something that's super lightweight. Probably also a little bit more tiring than the Black Pearl 88. But you know, it's relatively easy to ski. It's very, very smooth. It doesn't have a super pronounced early taper, but it's there. So very, very catch-free feel in soft snow. A lot of women are really gravitating to this ski for its versatility. You know, all of these skis are very versatile, but the Santa Ana 93 is definitely one that'll hold an edge really well on groomers, 2 sheets of metal, but it's got a very versatile shape, very approachable, user-friendly feel, especially considering those 2 sheets of metal. So you're going to want to be like relatively aggressive, but you don't have to be a charging, go hard all the time skier, and you're still going to get a great feel out of the Santa Ana 93. You know, it's the widest ski on this wall right now, so arguably the best in soft snow. I think it's tough to say that anything on this wall would outperform it in soft snow. So if you are looking for one ski to do everything, but you ski powder a fair amount, that's a great choice. And then the last ski we have here, you know, this is a pretty famous one that's got a really strong following. This is the Vocal Kenja. So I saved this ski for last because it's the stiffest, it's the most powerful, it doesn't use a ton of early taper. So, you know, the Kenja, you really want to be a pretty advanced skier to get the most out of it. You know, I think there are a lot of women that have bought this ski, and I think you could make the argument that some of them should have bought something a little bit easier. I think Vocal kind of responded to that with the new Yumi this year that has a single strip of metal, so you can still get that benefit of metal. But the Kenja, it's camber underfoot, it's got rocker tips and tails, but they're not exceptional amounts of rocker. So it does require a fair amount of skier input. It's a pretty stiff ski. I'm not the strongest, heaviest person, but I'm pretty much giving it my all right there, and it's a pretty stiff ski. So if you're looking for the ultimate in stability and damping and power out of your all-mountain ski, the Kenja's, it's tough to beat. It's pretty much the way to go. But it's a charging ski. It requires a pretty advanced skier. A lot of women with race backgrounds end up on the Kenja because it has pretty similar to a race ski construction. It's a multi-wood core, so they kind of stack wood lengthwise, and then sandwich it with those two sheets of metal. So a fair amount of ski. You know, if we were to take the Santa Ana, remember, 2 sheets of metal again, and flex it, it's a little bit softer. Not like outrageously softer, but a little bit. So Kenja's pretty aggressive, but if you're that aggressive skier, it's going to give you a level of performance that not many skis on this wall can match. Maybe with the Santa Ana as an exception, although I do think the Santa Ana is a little bit more user-friendly. A lot of that comes from the shape, but some of it comes from the thickness of the core, thickness of the metal, stuff like that. So 8 great women's all-mountain skis. You know, something that we keep coming back to at skiessentials.com, and something that I think is really important. I personally can't say that one of these skis is just hands down better than any others. It's all about what type of skier you are and what you want out of a ski. You know, we've got a wide range here, whether you want something lightweight that's more groomer oriented, or something with 2 sheets of metal with a little bit more versatile shape, or tons of stuff in between. So as always, leave us a comment. This is only 8 skis, and this is a really big category. So leave us a comment if you have any questions about a ski that's not here, or also if you just want us to kind of circle back around and talk more detail about a certain model up here. So yeah, 8 great women's all-mountain skis. Take your pick. You're not going to be disappointed with basically any of these skis. They're all awesome. And yeah, let us know if you have questions, and we will see you on the slopes.